Hare Krishna, everyone,
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
for joining for today's Bhagavad Gita discussion. Today, we're going to discuss on 1.14 Sloka for 10 minutes. So, we have completed the first 13 Slokas in Bhagavad Gita. So this is a Sloka that we have completed. 1.12 we have completed, and today we will discuss 1.13 and 1.14. Let me recite the Sloka once. Tatah Shankascha Bheryascha Panavanaka Gomukha Sahasaivabyahanyanta Sashabdas Tumulo Bhavat. Once again. Tatah Shankascha Bheryascha Panavanaka Gomukha Sahasaivabyahanyanta Sashabdas Tumulo Bhavat. After that, the conch shells, drums, bugles, trumpets, and horns were all suddenly sounded, and the combined sound was tumultuous. So here, Sanjay is explaining whatever is happening in the battlefield to Dhritarashtra. And once the Duryodhana's speech is over, once his analysis is being heard by Dronacharya and all the military soldiers in the Kaurava side, Bhishma Pitamaha started blowing his conch shell, just like a roaring lion. And once he blew his conch shell, then everyone in the military, they started blowing their own conch shells and drums and bugles and trumpets, everything they started blowing, and it was so heavy, and the sound is, and then suddenly there was a big sound. The combined effect of all the sounds is tumultuous, which is so much exploding kind of. Such a huge sound created vibrations in everyone's body and mind, that they are going to fight a war and everyone is ready for it. And this shows the sportive nature of the military and army members present in the battlefield. It is not just fighting against each other, but they are using all the skills they have in the battlefield. And then 1.14, Tatah Shvetair Hayer Yukte Mahati Sandane Stitau Madhava Pandavas Chaiva Divyau Shankau Pratad Matu. On the other side, both Lord Krishna and Arjuna, stationed on a great chariot drawn by white horses, sounded the transcendental conscience. Divyau Shankau. Divyau means transcendental conscience. Okay, so in response to Bhishma's conch shell, on the other side, the Pandava side, Krishna and Arjuna also blew their conch shells. Not just a simple conch shells, but they are transcendental conch shells. The divine Shankha, they have blown and sounded it. So this is a response to what Bhishma blew, Bhishma's conch shell. And here, the indication of the Divya Shankha implies that it is a transcendental conch shell, and where there is Krishna and Arjuna, Krishna and Pandavas, there is always victory. The transcendental implies that Krishna is being the wife of goddesses of fortune, Lakshmi Devi. Where there is Lakshmi Devi, where there is Krishna, there is Radharani. Where there is Vishnu, there is Lakshmi Devi. Where there is Lakshmi, there is Vishnu. So where there is goddesses of fortune, there lies Krishna, and where Krishna lies, there lies the fortune. So here Krishna lies in the side of Pandavas along with Arjuna. So because Krishna is present there, fortune is always present there, and they are always going to win, no matter what is the opposition they have. So this implies that they are going to win the war. This is a sign of victory, and this is also an introduction. This is a nice shloka, because this is the first shloka where Krishna is introduced. Sri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita is introduced in this sloka. Krishna enters into the scene. So from this sloka, we can learn one lesson. That is, Krishna's entry in the Bhagavad Gita highlights his message of love. Okay. If you see this picture, here Krishna is present, Arjuna is present, and the chariot. This chariot is given by Agni Dev. Is gifted by Agni Dev as a blessings, and they have Hanuman on the flag, and all these things are the signs of victory. And this scene that we are seeing, that on the other side, Sanjay is explaining that in the 1.14 sloka, till now nowhere Krishna is mentioned, and even Duryodhana didn't consider him, didn't calculate it. We have discussed about it, what is his mindset and how he miscalculated everything and all. So now came the main role and the hero of Kurukshetra, Krishna's entry into Bhagavad Gita is being presented, explained and spoken by Sanjaya, described by Sanjaya. And now, very interestingly, here if you see, Krishna is a hero of Kurukshetra. And now why is he the hero? Why not Duryodhana? In fact, Duryodhana is a villain of the scene. Because he's on the side of Adharma and disturbing the stability in the society and all. And why is this Krishna a hero? Because if you see Bhagavad Gita, what happens is Arjuna gets into a trouble, faces a problem that he is not going to fight, and he has a lot of dilemma and gets disturbed, depressed, and he feels very sad. He has a challenge in front of him, and Krishna starts speaking, and he consolidates Arjuna. He provides a wisdom and helps Arjuna and prepares Arjuna to fight the battle with full sincerity and determination. So that's why Krishna is considered as a hero of Kurukshetra in Bhagavad Gita. Now Krishna is entering the scene. Now if you see a lot of movies, every movie has an introduction scene for the hero. And when hero enters, you can imagine a scene where just an imagination where the heroine is present and a villain is taking away heroine and disturbing heroine, and suddenly a car comes into the picture and full speed car comes and enters into the scene, and the back tires of the car skids and car rotates 360 degrees, and then suddenly from the door of the car one person comes out in slow motion and everything happens, and then still the car is rotating, and then suddenly the camera zooms into the hero's face, and then he removes the specs, and then he comes. So all these things, this is just you can visualize how hero enters into a scene in a movie, kind of a cinematic scene. So similarly, one can expect Krishna also entering into the scene of Kurukshetra in some sort of heroic way, because he's a hero. And now if you see, Krishna enters in a very interesting way. That is, he is shown as a charioteer of Arjuna. This chariot is given by Agni Dev, and Arjuna is going to fight the war, and Arjuna is a kind of a higher position, and Krishna is kind of a lower position because he is a charioteer. Now, if you see the previous slokas, nowhere Duryodhana mentioned the charioteer of the warriors. He only mentioned the great warriors that are going to fight against him, and who are the great warriors present along with him, Kauravas and Pandavas. Nowhere any charioteer is mentioned. But here, Sanjaya is mentioning Krishna, who is a charioteer. Even though Krishna is not going to fight a war, or he doesn't have anything to do with the war, practically fighting, physically fighting, but still he is mentioned in the shloka, and not just mentioned, he is mentioned before Arjuna. Madhava, Pandava's child, which means not even the warrior is mentioned, but the warrior's charioteer, who is considered as a lower position, is mentioned first, and then Arjuna is mentioned. So Krishna's role, Krishna's entry into Bhagavad Gita is shown here, that he presented himself as a driver of Arjuna. Now, why is this? That Arjuna, even though Krishna is such a great person, not just some great person, but he is a supreme personality of Godhead himself. Being as a god, Krishna wanted to drive, to be as a driver of Arjuna. What does this show? This shows his love, his divinity, his transcendental nature. So when the scene continues and when Bhagavad Gita proceeds ahead, you will see Arjuna's lamentation, Arjuna's suffering problem, and then Krishna dealing with the problem, and he explains everything, and he gives the knowledge, wisdom to Arjuna, and he consoles him, and he helps him to come back to the stability again. So each and everything is done by Sri Krishna. Now Krishna wanted to present Bhagavad Gita to humanity using Arjuna. And for that, he created this scene. And in this scene, because Krishna is explaining the importance and the significance of his message, that is love, that's bhakti, Krishna himself highlights that love he has towards his devotees. Now, if a person is explaining that, yes, this book is really important. This book is really important. Everyone should read it. And if you ask him, did you read that book? And then if he says no, then he is not actually explaining it in a right way. Which means when you're doing something, when you're preaching or advising or giving some suggestion to someone, the first thing that you have to do is whether you have followed it or not. You have to walk the talk. Whatever you are talking, you have to walk it. So Krishna wanted to practically show it to everyone. Okay, you need not read Bhagavad Gita. You just see the first picture of first page, or you can say the cover page of Bhagavad Gita, where you can see Krishna as a charioteer of Arjuna. Krishna is a god. Even though he, being a god, he took out of humility a lower position than an ordinary living being, Arjuna. Why? Because he wanted to show the importance and the significance of his message of bhakti or love, his love towards devotees. So when one understands the position of Krishna and then sees Krishna taking the role of a charioteer of Arjuna, then one cannot stop the tears rolling in their eyes. That's how Krishna shows and highlights the importance of love. And that is what makes Krishna's entry remarkable in Bhagavad Gita. And also, not just that, but God, Krishna being a God. Generally, people think of God in different ways, and different religions have different opinions. And many other religions consider God as a very high position, and no one can approach him, no one can access him. And sometimes they portray God as someone whom everyone should fear and then pray. There's nothing called love, there's nothing called accessibility towards God. No one can approach God. God is so much high position that no one can touch him or no one can approach him. And God is so powerful and great that everyone should fear to him and everyone should follow whatever he's saying. And all these things are there. All this way of understanding is present about God. But if you see Bhagavad Gita, here Krishna's position as a charioteer of Arjuna entirely changes the way you perceive God. Krishna, being a god, he got ready to showcase his love towards humanity, showcase his love towards all the jivas, all the living beings and present in the creation. And he wanted to present the wisdom to everyone, the manual of life to everyone through this setup, the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And for that, he's ready to take that role as a charioteer out of humility. even though he is a god, he chose it. And not just that, he is ready to accept the individuality of Archana. It is not that I am God and I'll give you some rules and you follow it. That's it. Bye bye. The scene is over. No, it's not like that. Krishna is there with Archana. Krishna presented his love towards Archana. Archana then faced some problem, and Archana wanted some solution or some guidance from his dearmost friend Krishna, and he takes shelter of Krishna. And then Krishna explains each and everything, and not just explains, he elaborates it and also answers all the questions that Arjuna has. Krishna respects the intelligence and the individuality of human beings. He's not just giving something and leaving. He's also respecting the other person. He's hearing what Arjuna's understanding is, and he's making it more clear. That's how he presents the significance of the love and the significance of the divinity that he has can be seen through his love. And the message of Bhagavad Gita is also present in this one shloka, in the cover page of Bhagavad Gita. So, being a god, Krishna respected the insignificant position of Archana and insignificant intelligence and the understanding of Archana. So many of us think that, oh, God is so high, God is so powerful, and he is so much high above the clouds, and we cannot approach him. And who cares? I mean, why will God care about me, an insignificant creature in the entire universe? You may be thinking so, but that's not true. Krishna cares about each and every living, even the ant, and even, you name it, coronavirus as well. Krishna cares about each and every living being present in the creation, because everything comes from him, and he has love towards everyone. And he wants each one of us to develop that love towards everyone by focusing on him. And when one loves Krishna, then one can love entire creation. And don't think that loving others doesn't means you don't perform your duty. I mean, if you say that you have to love, Arjuna is loving Kauravas, and now Arjuna loves Kauravas, so Arjuna will not fight. No, that's not love. That's a very narrow vision of love. Love is something that we are going to discuss, and that is a message of Bhagavad Gita. That's bhakti. And how do we really and truly love the creation and the creator, through loving creator, is explained in Bhagavad Gita. And that is what Krishna explained Arjuna, and Arjuna understood and did it. So he is presenting the significance of love by having a remarkable entrance in Kurukshetra. Hare Krishna. This is the sloka 1.14, and tomorrow we'll take 1.15. Thank you so much. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions, you can mention it in the comment box. You can approach us, and the only motive of daily discussing 10 minutes of Bhagavad Gita is to understand it, and not just understand, but also implement in one's own life. So whatever obstacle that we face as an individual while practicing Bhagavad Gita lessons and principles given by Krishna, we are always there to help you and guide you and move together towards the success in one's life. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.